Scott Faughn is here of the Missouri Times, does an outstanding job, and we are now 2 weeks to go until Election Day on both sides of our state line. But the early voting started today, or starts today, I should say, in the state of Missouri. Scott, good morning, my friend. Hey, what's getting the most attention right now in your world?
You know, it's a mix. We always talk. There's kind of like the inside game, and then there's the outside game, right? And in the inside game, it's these state senate races. You've got a big one, Mike Jones versus Sean Pouchet. I would say Mike Jones has opened up a little bit of a lead there. You also have the congressional races. I mean, in today's time, there's not a lot of difference in any of the candidates. You know what I mean? Everybody's who can love Trump and agree with Trump fastest. So the winners aren't as impactful sometimes when you used to have debates about policy. But those are big deals, both of them touching the Kansas City area right there. Kansas City, for like the third election cycle in a row, is the center of Missouri politics. But I'll tell you, I think outside here, it's Amendment 5. There is a big debate about Amendment 5, not really with Democrats in the state. They all hate it. They agree with the Star and the Post and, every left-wing group. But there's a huge debate inside the Republican Party. And it's an interesting thing to me. There's a tendency we have in the Republican Party now to, if it happens, we're against it and we're mad about it. And you're seeing the two sides kind of fight. You have a solutions-based kind of Reagan part of the party that wants to actually change government, that wants to cut taxes, that wants to actually have solutions to things. And you have a part of the party that's just mad all the time. They don't want solutions, and they just scream constantly. And I really do think, if you want the truth, I'll be honest with you. We like to talk Kansas, as we say back home in the boot hill, hogs, dogs, and logs. I've always been drawn to the solutions part of the party, but I will say I do think, frankly, the just I'm angry part of the party is winning.
I agree. And Amendment 5, for those that may not know, is the amendment to phase out the income tax in the state of Missouri, which, like you, I mean, I'm a proponent and a fan of. I have questions about it, but I understand the play, and I think it's a smart one for the state. That being the case, Scott, I am not seeing or hearing anything in terms of ads or some massive statewide operation to get the vote out to vote yes on this Amendment 5 to get rid of the state income tax. I mean, Americans for Prosperity, they're doing some stuff, but I don't see any great statewide movement to push this across the finish line. Am I missing something, or is it not happening?
I have been moderating some of these forums with Americans for Prosperity. Camelia Peterson, they've been working their tails off. You're not missing it. I think it's one of those things. I assume the Amendment 5 people have an outstanding campaign organization running it. I don't think you're hearing cut the income tax. I think you're hearing some other arguments, which kind of it takes your mind off of what's actually going on. There's some great ads with this older lady saying she wants her money for her grandkids and stuff. It doesn't really come out and say we're cutting the income tax. It kind of says, don't trust politicians or whatever. So the ads are there. The campaign is happening, but I'm with you on the ground at these town halls. I'm wondering why anyone does them anymore, because frankly, it's just really an excuse for people to come out and yell. And at any town hall, you don't get. I mean, if you're just a person that's sitting at home and thinking, you know what, this state hasn't grown in a quarter of a century. I think we need to change public policy in order to grow the state again. You don't really go out to a town hall and make your voice heard. But if you're mad and you want to complain, you show up and you show up and you show out, right? And so I've enjoyed some of your. I know they're not called town halls. They're called Politics and a Pint. I love them, because there's actually a conversation about something. I mean, you let your folks get some of their talking points, and then you follow up. And I really enjoyed that, because, you get to actually learn, okay, what does this person actually think? And so I'm kind of in for, the town halls, though, you do have a lot of negative. I actually think you could have a town hall about anything right now, and what you'd get is a bunch of people there to throw a fit. And I think that's just the world we live in. And I assume it will be until there's a major national crisis that sobers people up. I'll tell you the biggest fight inside the party right now. The biggest fight is forever and a day, the Democrats were the party of the trial attorneys and the Republicans were the party of business. But I think if you start counting noses after this election, Rick Bratton's a trial attorney guy. You've got Sam Alexander, Brad Pollitt. Sam Alexander may win. Curtis Trent, one of the biggest minds in the party from Springfield, is running the trial attorney. They hate him more than anybody. They may beat him. It's a very close race. I think Curtis probably still wins, but there's also an incumbency bias we all have because incumbents rarely lose. That is a real race. And I think when you start counting noses at the end of this campaign, the party of the trial attorney might be the Republican Party. And who would ever thought we'd say that?
The trial attorneys seem to be owning the Missouri GOP more and more by the day. Fair?
Well, they've taken advantage of the fact that Republicans don't have ideas anymore. They're just mad. And when you're angry, people are easily susceptible to new arguments and changing their thoughts. And also, what you're seeing is folks that have a hard time fundraising. The trial attorneys are great about going to them and saying, well, we might give you a couple $100,000. You love suing people, right? And they're like, no. I said, well, then you don't get $200,000. Like, well, you know what? Suing people's not all that bad. So,
yep.
And what they're doing is no different than every interest group does. It's been the best strategy in the state has been the trial attorney strategy over the last 10 years. They went from getting a bill passed to hurt their pocketbooks every year to now not only, I don't think you could pass a bill to hurt their pocketbooks if you wanted to right now, but now they may start passing bills to make it easier to sue people because the Republican Party, I think, may be the party of the trial attorney now.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, hey, but what does that mean then for Mike Kehoe, his leadership? How big of a hit would this be on, the early part of his tenure as governor if we're sitting here in a couple of weeks and the Missouri income tax cut goes down in flames and the trial attorney crowd continues to grow in stature in the legislature?
Well, I mean, look, getting a yes on a ballot measure in the state of Missouri is just not even possible if you have funded opposition. I don't think the income tax thing, Amendment 4 is kind of, I love the concept of IP reform, but let's be real. This IP reform is not a serious public policy proposal. It's just screwy. I think more than the income tax cut, the Chiefs are something that I think sticks in his crawl. And look, it is true. Even if Mike Kehoe, who is a tremendous leader, who could get things passed because he takes the time and works with legislators and knows them, I don't think Mike Kehoe could pass a piece of tort reform legislation right now. I don't think anybody could. And that will be, that is not good for him. Long term, the income tax, I hope this fight isn't over. I'm hearing rumblings. We may see Donald Trump make his thoughts known on this. That would bring a lot of Republicans home, I think. And I don't think the campaign's over, but if it goes down, that's bad. That's a bad day. But now you're seeing a total sea change out from under the feet of your typical conservative Republicans. They all scream the same yelling, but instead of saying we want to grow the economy pro-business, we want to sue more people all the time.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up. Trump owes Kehoe, too. Let's be honest. Kehoe got redistricting done for him, and if Trump comes out in favor of passing the no state income tax, that would be big news, and I think it's the least Trump could do for Kehoe right now. Now, you mentioned the 5th District. That's, of course, Emanuel Cleaver's district, and you've got a bunch of Republicans wanting to flip that seat. It seems like Taylor Burks out of mid-Missouri and Rick Bratton here in Cass County are the front runners in that race. What is your read on it right now with 2 weeks to go?
I would say Rick Bratton, look, the guy is battle-tested, not just military. They both served in the military. Rick Bratton's been through some tough campaigns. I think Rick being a state senator, and also don't forget having Bob Onder and Eric Burleson kind of in his crew, and Denny Hoskins to a different extent, but these guys have ran congressional primaries, have been pretty good mentors for him. I think he's got a lead. As Rick is kind of going to be the Freedom Caucus guy, well, you're seeing now Steve Scalise, who's more of the not Freedom Caucus types, come in pretty heavy for Burks. We'll see how much. This is all going to, those Washington folks don't cut a check without doing 2 polls. So it's all polling driven, and I'm of the opinion it's going to be an interesting race. I would say Rick has a bit of a leg up right now. You're going to need to see a lot more negative, I think, for Taylor to make that difference up, but we'll see. These Washington groups, when they come in, you could hear them flood. Look, they come in and buy KCMO radio time. they're good for media outlets. I've never trusted the Washington crowd, but I do think at this point this race is out of Missourians' hands. And how much will Washington people put in for Taylor versus how much Washington people are putting in for Rick? Congressional races are largely a Washington, D.C. thing, and Missourians have less and less say over who their member of Congress is going to be.
Well, that brings us then up to the Northland, that 6th district to replace Sam Graves. We had Sam on the show this morning. We know that he is supporting Chris DeGaulle. There was a story yesterday. Liberty Alliance USA has filed complaints with the FEC and the Missouri Ethics Commission against Nathan Willett for allegedly routing $165,000 in state campaign funds to his congressional campaign. It is getting, you and I have talked about it on the show, off the air. It has gotten nasty in that 6th congressional district primary between Nathan Willett and Chris DeGaulle. Where's it go with 2 weeks left?
I think it's very close. I would say Willett may have a little advantage outstate. He landed some big endorsements, Farm Bureau soybean endorsements that matter in North Missouri. I think Chris DeGaulle has run a good campaign. He's got a good solid crew of people, like Clay County crew. I think at the end of the day, do I believe Nathan Willett probably did shady stuff with his money? Yes. Do I believe all these people do shady stuff? Yes. Is it a shady system that produces shady results? Yes. I don't know the facts. Maybe Nathan did something even shadier than everybody else, but the system was written by shady people to do shady things, and it gets shady results. It's exactly what the people that wrote these laws wanted, and it's what they get. I have no idea about the details of it. I think Stegall is in a good place because of the man you just mentioned. I guess if you want to pick a winner, how much time will Sam Graves spend here reminding folks he's done? He is a legend. On the Mount Rushmore of members of Congress from the state of Missouri, Champ Clark, you go down the list of the great Missourians Ike Skelton, that have served in the United States Congress. Sam Graves on the Mount Rushmore of members of Congress. He has done more for this state than many United States senators. I'll be honest with you. If you're a member of Congress and you're not bringing home earmarks to your district, you should wear a ski mask when you cash your check, because you are robbing the taxpayers. Members of Congress don't do anything real. Congress is worthless. The one thing you do is you bring home money. And if you're not bringing home money, you are absolutely worthless. As we say back home, we call you tits on a boar hog. You are worthless. And Sam Graves has been the most valuable. He has produced worth, not just the county. He has produced worth to this state, not just in North Missouri. This entire state owes Sam Graves a debt of gratitude. And if he goes around North Missouri calling those favors back, who's going to say no to Sam Graves? My God. Which would help Stegall.
Mm-hmm. Well, a great analysis as always. Scott Faughn, Missouri Times, doing outstanding work. Make sure you're catching up and reading everything they're doing at the MissouriTimes.com.
I'm headed your way today. I'm getting on the big boy, the biggest steam engine in still operating in the world. I'm hopping on in Jeff City, heading west. The old cattle town of Kansas City. It's going to be fun.
All right, man. Well, you reach out, and we'll get you on again before these elections happen here in a couple of weeks.
Yes, sir. Take care.
All right. See you later. Scott Faughn. Love having him on.